Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I've got 2 subscriber submissions and some Q&A from William. Before we get into today's upload, though, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch to help this channel to continue to grow and go. All those links are in the description below. I also have a second channel for creepypasta, fan fiction, and scary voice acting. Stories that, well, they really don't fit on this channel. Now, if that's anything that you're into, follow that link and give those stories a listen. You may just like what you hear. And before today's upload, I just want to thank everybody who has supported me through the last couple of weeks with my depression and everything else. The 5th is coming faster than I thought. So thank you. Thank you to everybody. Now, I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload. Shall we? We're going to start today's upload with some more family history from Luke out of Taylor, Mississippi. Years went by, 20 years or so, no further encounters. Life was back to normal for my family, and then I came along. I had a normal childhood. Growing up, no encounters with those walking wolves that my dad and grandfather told me about. However, at 6 or 7, I had an encounter with a woodsman, or as you call them, Bigfoot. I would play in the front near the wood line, and it would watch me, making waving motions. I never felt threatened. I would say it came to be my friend. I would go into the woods. It was leaving trinkets for me and kept the coyotes away. This went on for years. Into my young adulthood, I had no fear of the woods at all. I was friends with an 8-foot Bigfoot. The closest we ever got to each other was 10 feet. I was in my 20s at the time. My life took a change for the worst. I would spend hours in the woods, more than I would spend at home. One late summer afternoon, I was in the woods looking for my friend, and I couldn't find him, but had this ominous feeling that I needed to head home. So I did. I had the feeling something was watching me, followed by light footsteps. So the naive me thought it was my friend, so I called out to him, going where I heard the noise. 40 feet away from me was this dog crouching down in the bush, looking at me. Then it stood up. It stood at 7.5, maybe 8 feet tall. Long muzzle, dark brown, almost black fur, and sharp-looking teeth. I never felt the need to carry a weapon before until then. Mind racing. Can I outrun it? My house is 300 yards away. Then it points at me with those creepy finger claws. 3 more came out and had me completely surrounded. I'm scared out of my wits. I put my hands up like fighting this thing was an option. Then a glance of something bulldozing its way through the forest, and came a mighty roar, like something that came from King Kong itself. Never heard anything like it before. It literally brought me to my knees and paralyzed with fear. It was my friend, pissed off. Never saw him that way. He almost looked demonic. I don't know if I gave an accurate description of him, but he was 8.5 feet tall. I know this because he stood next to a tree and I measured it later. Anyway, 550 to 600 pounds of all muscle. For shoulder to shoulder, 4.5 feet. Thickness from chest to back, 2 to 3 feet. Red, shaggy hair, no neck. Traps looking like a pyramid. He got between me and them. We were 2 feet apart as he shoves me to leave. As I take off running, one of the smaller Dogman creatures, 6 feet or so in height, proceeds to give chase, launching itself 8 feet in the air, faster than anything known to man in my direction. Passing the Bigfoot as he turned, grabbing it by its back leg in midair. Slamming it so hard to the ground shook, then stomping its head, killing it instantly. I proceeded to run again as I was starting to lose sight of them, as all three were on top of him. Making it to my house, telling my dad everything that transpired, he called my grandfather, telling him what was going on. He saw the Bigfoot on many occasions, and they had a mutual respect for each other. My grandfather felt it only right to help him since he saved its grandson. He went to the location I gave, finding the walking wolves and the woodsman, down to 2 wolves attacking it. The second one was missing its bottom jaw. The woodsman, bleeding from its neck, shoulder, and stomach, was losing strength and dropped to a knee as my grandfather took a shot from his AR, hitting both creature as they retreated yelping. He didn't go near it because it was severely injured and it might attack, so stayed within a couple of hours, making sure those wolves didn't come back, and it recovered some strength and stamina, then stumbled off. Later that week, my grandmother found my grandfather mauled to death in his barn. The authorities came in saying it was some sort of cat of some sorts. Fish and Wildlife came, and some other alphabet agency came onto the property for a couple of days. We mourned the death of my grandfather, oblivious to everything else around us that was going on the property. We believed it was one of those that my grandfather had shot. I didn't have friends at the time other than the woodsman, and he probably died from his wounds. So my dad got a bunch of his friends, who were hunters, to go kill this supposed cougar or mountain lion. They went into the woods tracking a predator. What they found was signs of heavy gunfire and chaos that went on for about a quarter of a mile. Blood splatter all over the area. This unnerved all of them, that they quickly abandoned their objective. Not knowing whether those walking wolves were dead or alive made us feel robbed, never able to get closure. This happened years ago, around 2000, 2001. If William has insight on that, it may give my family closure. I never saw the woodsman that saved my life again. Wow. Normally I do outros. On this one I've got to just talk for a second. Luke, I want to thank you for sharing your family's history with the walking wolves, as your family calls them. To be honest with you, I never saw this encounter coming from your prior encounters, or your grandfather and father's prior encounters. I'm sorry for your loss of your grandfather. This happened in 2000, 2001, so William, if you have any insight on this, send me an email, please. I know you will either way, but wow. I'm going to put together the rest of Luke's family encounters in order and do an upload of them all together. Luke, if there's any other encounter or encounters after this one, could you send them to me so I can get that out there? Wow, this was very powerful, and it shows how vengeful these creatures are, methodical, and wanting revenge is just pure animalistic, you know. Wow. Thank you for sharing that again. Let's change the pace up with some Q&A from William. Northern Watson asks, I wonder why they approved him to go out, knowing that Ellis had so few visits to the enclosure. If he only saw Raphael once and passed out, wouldn't that make him have more experiences in the enclosure, settling to make sure he wouldn't endanger a fellow agent? Answer. At this time in 1992, no changes had been made to policies, and agents still picked to have insurance or not to have insurance. Changes came in 92 due to Ellis's death. Now you had to make regular visits to the enclosures and be around the cryptids of some type unless you were a specialist. Then you had to be around the type of cryptid you were specialized for. Also, the company paid for your insurance, now for $3 million, and it was to be paid to the family or benefactor in 3 days, no questions asked. If you wanted more than that, you had to see the person in charge of hiring you and tell them what you wanted and pay the premiums before a certain time each month. There were also many more changes made on the count of his death, but these are the ones that stick out to me the most. Vicky Kevin asks, you talk a lot about your scars from the battles you have faced with cryptids. Is there any way you could show us some of them by sending a picture to Jeff? Answer, at this time, I don't think that everyone needs to see these. I'm very sorry if this is what it will take to convince you people this is real, but I am not supposed to share anything with the public other than words. Jeff has seen some things just to know who I am and to help him know me a little better by phone calls and a couple of photos. Jeff has seen my wounds that I've received from the cave-like people in Tennessee. Yes, I have seen those wounds. He did send a couple of other pictures to me. I did reverse Google search them. They are not anywhere online anywhere. And he told me to keep them private, and I immediately deleted them. So, like he has stated before, he will share everything with us when the time is right for him. David, 899-7675, statement, ask, let's discuss what actor will play the part of William in the movie that should be made about these stories. I vote The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, to play William. How about the rest of you? Who would you choose to play William in the movie? William, if you write a book and it is made into a movie, you are going to make millions. How soon can you get this done? Answer, David, I don't want a movie made about me and these creatures, or even a book. It would all be labeled the wrong way, and no one would believe either one of them if it is mass-produced to the public. The only way to get this out to the public is through people that actually believe in these creatures and have seen them, and talk to other people, and get them to start to listen to channels like Jeff's here, and pay attention and learn, and get more people to listen and spread the word over long distance. That's how we get the word out. My interjection on that, if there was a movie, dude would play, William would be Jason Momoa, or whatever his name is, the guy that plays Aquaman. The Rock is not the right character for this. The Rock is much too prim, proper, clean looking. William's a rugged MFer, man. The Rock is just juice and more juice and crust white strips. David Pethel asks, a hypothetical question. What if you were forced to kill an untagged one, and you chose to bury it with a backhoe and say nothing? Not knowing who to contact, would you be in trouble with the government? A dogman, to be specific, and it meant harm. No, David, we would know nothing about it. I am very much glad you are okay, and it did you no bodily harm. Sounds like you don't know if it did any monetary loss at all, but as long as you are okay is all that matters to me, David. If you would like to share your story with Jeff and myself, I would like to hear it, and I'm sure Jeff would love to narrate your story. Just so everyone knows, I am for the people. If you have to kill a tagged or untagged one of either species, as long as you are not out there hunting them down like wild dogs, I am on your side, people. Michelle Miller asks, William, are there any women in your line of work? We have had 3, but they all died in the line of duty, and since we found out the reason why, we have not hired any more of them. It's when that time of the month comes around, it draws the cryptids in like flies. Once again, nothing against you, Michelle. We have talked about these. There's been, he's given some really good examples of what happened to these women. Just listen to the rest of the Q&As and you'll get the gist. There's one story, I forget her name, that he kind of got into detail about. Tone Wilhelmsen asks, I think you never should have sent this man out in his condition. That is too much in the beginning, and a way to kill people fast. The story suddenly ended. Was it supposed to? Okay, now one of my famous interjections before we get into the answer. I don't see how the story ended suddenly. Should the story have ended with a sunset and Brian and William looking at each other's eyes, hugging and maybe passionately kissing? No, it ended the way it should and how it ended in real life. So, on to William's answer. Tone, back in 92 when this happened, he had passed all his paperwork. He had passed his shooting test and he had been to the enclosure on this day. Sebastian was under the weather and asked if we could put him in front of Raphael. They got his enclosure ready and put him in its place and never even blindfolded him. They then released Raphael and he came charging, and before Raphael even reached the glass, Ellis' body went limp. So he failed that part of the exam, but his overall score was high enough for him to do field training. This is what me and my CO were talking back and forth about in his office that day before I was to leave out with him as my second. And yes, I left out a couple of sentences about Brian. I had offered him a job many years ago, and he was just now letting me know that he could not take it due to the circumstances in his life now, that he was unable to move to Virginia, and all after almost 8 years, I believe it was, but he couldn't move on account of his grandparents. Mark Schlingelhoff asks, when you show your back, has anyone questioned your wounds? Why would the Dogman take a man's shoe? Does Ellis still haunt you in your dreams? Do you have any other cases that happened in California? Lots of people have. I can go to the beach here in Virginia on downtime, and I will spend at least half of my time having women and men take photos of my back and chest with them, and them feeling how rough my back is, from them having to pull everything back together as best they could to sew me up in a very small town hospital. And they same thing with my right thigh. They had not seen wounds like that before. The only thing I can figure is that it is a trophy for one of them. I came up with it. The worst one of all of them, and it's an every night happening, and it could happen more than once a night, or maybe someone else's death, or me killing someone, even though I believe I did the world a favor by removing these people from the planet. But they are all still there, every last one of them. Yes, I have been to California on several occasions over the years. Excellent Lord God asks, another great episode, Jeff. Is there a reason the recording ended on such an abrupt note? Have you ever heard of a certain type of hunting clothing that blocks electronic signature? Interjection. My bad. Now I understand what Tone is talking about. I did end that story without an outro. I apologize. I wasn't feeling good. I was depressed and just wanted to get the story out. So now it makes sense. I apologize for the snarky, sunset, passionate stuff. Anyway, William's answer. Yes, there is. I left out a couple of sentences about Brian explaining why he couldn't work with me any longer after his wife was killed. Sorry about that. Yes, we even had it demonstrated to us, and we thought it would be wonderful. We asked the question if it could come in the color black, and they replied yes. We asked them to wait in the other room while we all discussed it, and every agent wanted it. They came back into the room and asked what we thought, and everyone said that we wanted them, and they went to measure for every man's custom size. The company is going to pay for them, so everyone orders 7 apiece. I forgot what the order came to, but it was in and around $18,000 for 12 agents, 7 complete sets each, and everyone was happy with this. And if we added a new agent, would send someone to measure him and then get him as ready as possible. Then the company decides it's not worth it to them to dye them black after all this and returns the check. 791005A asks, is there any Dogman still left in San Leonardo area? I ask because I have friends going hiking in those areas, and one of them told me that they have found large dog tracks, but it was too large to be a dog. Then this fear came to them, and they got the hell out of that area. Yes, there are more in the area. By now, this encounter was way back in '92. So you know with all the open woods that something has to be living in those woods at all times. I would just about bet that I didn't kill them all that night. Most times, if you are in groups, they will not mess with people unless they are wild ones. And if they have gotten up with the tagged ones, we hope that the tagged ones will teach them of the program, and that they will follow them back to Virginia when we chime them to return. And some wild ones do return with the tagged ones from time to time. Wolfka asks, William, are you aware of any of the big 3 in Hawaii, or any other cryptids? Under different circumstances, and falling in combat, he would be furnished funeral with honors in Arlington National Cemetery, or Quantico National Cemetery, and his family may have some relief knowing Ellis died while honorably serving his country, and perhaps with distinction for bravery or gallantry in the face of an enemy. William, I had heard a story about a mercenary who was a contractor and brought in to remove cryptids. The company he worked for was named Leviathan. This guy was from South Africa and was contracted to the American, Russian, and British governments. In America, they were called in for Dogman and especially dangerous Sasquatches. This was in the summer of 2013 in the Appalachians. They were hunting the Foxman. This particular den was large and had about 7 adult males, 1 juvenile male, and 5 females. These creatures were described as large for a dog-like creature, the largest standing almost 9 feet tall. This guy claims his team is paid by the government. Have you ever heard of this company? Do state governments have the ability to just hire who they want for this service? Answer. Wolfka, I've never been to Hawaii for any of the big three at any time in my career. Never seen a report on one either. No other cryptid either. It's safe as long as you don't go into the water. Then I can't help you any longer. Sorry. I made sure he was buried with full military honors, just as though he was killed overseas. Yes, I had to pay for his funeral, and not one person offered 1 red cent on it, but that was okay. As you enter our building, you will see a plaque dedicated to him for the first man to take down 8 Dogman in a fight, and how even then he lost his life to them. Since then, this has been done twice more by myself, and I have plaques on both sides of his. But he explains how one knocked my rifle from my hands, wounding me, and me being down to a handgun, he stood over me and took out the Dogmen, 8 of them, before his rifle jammed, and one tore his chest out, and I had to finish the fight from the ground, and then got his body out. Yes, I know of this company that came in 2013. It was a party of 5, and the U.S. told them not to be in the U.S., but they came anyway. They were in Kentucky when, word has it, they were confronted by 3 men someplace along the Appalachian Trail, and the confrontation took place leaving the 5 men from South Africa dead. Their bodies were dragged off the trail and buried in a shallow grave. Is this what I was told? Brian Smunsky asks, William, it's Brian. I recently found a dead deer in my parents' backyard in White Oak, PA. Couldn't tell how it died. The insides were eaten. I've also been noticing the house quiet. It had been out the SR night. The dogs will usually get a bone to chew on, but they won't go anywhere near this dead deer. What do you think about that? Is there anything to be worried about out there? Hey, Brian, trying to figure out what the SR stands for. Anyhow, let's get on to the rest of this. Is there any way that the deer swelled up and a possum or some other type of animal like that was able to get inside and eat the insides out of the deer? Is there a distinct smell on the deer, a pungent odor that you are able to smell? Say the dogs will not go around the deer. What if you are close to it? Will they then go near it? If they are still refusing to go near the carcass, then something pulled into your yard is something that is very dominant over your dogs. What type of dogs are they? There are great numbers in your area, enough to keep you inside after dark. Do your parents believe? If not, it's time you try your best to make them believe. And I know this can be hard. If you can, just get them to listen to some Q&A. And maybe the first and second story, or all 3, if they would explain who I am and what I do. Anything that you could do to make them possibly believe these things actually exist could save lives. David Evans asks, do you know if there are any dogman or werewolves in the UK? Answer, yes, I would say that you do have them in the UK, as I have taken calls and explained how to try to disperse these creatures to the local law enforcement on several times over the telephone. Tim Pitt's statement. In previous show, William, you said they all have $3 million insurance policies. Yes, Tim, I did. That started the year of 92 on the count of Ellis's death. The company started to pay $3 million worth of life insurance on each man payable to a family member within 3 days, no questions asked. This is just one of the many changes that came about after his death that we talked about, and was able to get changed at that point in time. Peggy Smith asks, are the movies that Hollywood show in any way to expose these creatures, or are they just toying with everyone? Answer. Peggy, they're just playing with you. I would never let them near any of them if I could help it. They may retire me tomorrow, but as long as I'm in charge, they will not lay eyes on these creatures. It's hard to believe that I'm back in the field one day after they put a star on my shoulders. And now back in the field hunting something that I don't know what it is. Clayton Pickering. Statement. William, if I understood correctly, you mentioned that you have been to Skinwalker Ranch 30-plus times. If so, what is the reason of you being there? Did you directly deal with the NIDS team while you were there, or the new owner thereafter? Did you experience at any point in time at the ranch any unusual phenomenon? Can you tell us when you were at the ranch? Dates would be helpful. Also, is there any truth to private contractors or Border Patrol designated DX-587 as the Dogman along the U.S.-Mexican border? Answer. Clayton, before I can answer you about the Skinwalker Ranch, I need to know some things about you, such as what do you do for a living, what state you live in, how old you are, and the reason you want this information, that I can produce all to you if it checks out, okay? Sorry, certain areas I have to protect more than others. Bill. You can email me, Clayton, with those answers, and Bill will gladly provide your answers to your questions if things check out. Paul Burke asks, I just want to know if Sebastian dreams. Also, do the big three sleep a lot? I would have to ask him if he does. That has never come up. It has come up that I have, and I explained about how it started, and he only said that it would be an awful thing to see. The females seem to sleep more than the males, but that may be because there are more of them in the enclosures when I am around them. J. Boss statement asks, you'd think there would be a communication protocol where if agents aren't heard from at regular intervals, help would be sent. And what kind of chicken shit outfit doesn't pay for funeral for agents who die in the line of duty? Why can't they take emergency transponders so that they can be located? J. Boss in 1992 April at the CIA, things were in the hands of the wrong man. He had taken control 8 years prior to that, and everyone I talked to when I came in said he was the best, but things changed. Within 3 years of me starting, our call protocol changed from 48 hours to 240 hours unless you were calling in to request more agents or to report what you were tracking. Things were changing for the worst, and the CO was making these changes with the Lieutenant General knowledge, and he was backing him up on these changes. Also in 92, the CIA required you to take insurance for you to have burial benefits at the time, and it was up to the individual to take out this policy. If you didn't, then you had no insurance of any kind at all. And due to Ellis's death, changes came about. The Lieutenant General had policies drawn on every man in the unit for $3 million for the people in their household, and if you wanted more than that, you could pay for it out of your pocket, and it was not very expensive at all. There were also other changes also that went into effect after his death that really help out with training and all that at later dates. We had transponders, but no one wanted to carry them. They weighed close to 12 pounds at that time and were large and very bulky. No one wanted to add them to their packs to carry because most missions are over in less than 5 days. Most are. And we are not considered missing for 21 days before they send out help for us. And that is just something that we sign a paper knowing that help is not coming. We are on our own unless we call out on our satellite radio. Jane Skidmore's statement. Not sure, but I don't think the personal GPS emergency locator was developed until about 2002, 2003. Interjection. I answered this one before William did the Q&A. And Jane, before you make statements, make sure you fact check. Because here's the answer. Jane, it's Bill here. When I went into the Marines in 78, I believe we had transponders back then. And then in 92, when the dogs came to me that night and Brian showed up with his men, the one dog had a tracking collar on him or her that night. So I believe they have been around for quite a while longer than that. We are all dating it back. They were developed and used in 1978. That's me talking, not William. Anakin statement. Imagine being surrounded by Dogman, then your radio goes off. Hey, Will, it's base. You haven't checked in yet. Amcon, that's the reason we keep them off until we have tried to use them, to make sure they don't call us when we're hunting. That could turn out very bad for you if it happens in the wrong situation. Carrie Doherty asks, could you ask William why these creatures never seem to smash windows, car windshields to gain access to people? Others I have heard can manipulate door handles or car door handles and get into people's homes. Are there any dogman or werewolves in the UK? They do smash windows and car windshields to get to people. It's just covered up more than people like to know about and even think about. Far too many people in wooded areas think this glass is going to protect them, and it will not stop them if they want to get to you. They also can open handles as easy as they can break out glass. If you're in your car and they walk up to you, the passenger needs to act as your decoy and move very slowly and draw the attention of the creature to them so the driver can also move really slow and crank the car and get the heck out of that area. If it's trying to get inside the house, turning the knobs, turn on all the lights in the house and get in the room that is the brightest and make your stand in this room. Yes, there are dogman and werewolves, both in the UK. As to the locations, I have no way of knowing this because we don't track in the UK. Elizabeth Sisney asks, my question for William is, what made you decide to do this? Hunt down werewolves and dogman. I ask because the danger is so extreme. Were you already married when you began this? Answer, I guess I wanted to do it on account of my dad. He always said that he hunted monsters and always told me never to get into the field, and was so against me following in his footsteps that it drove me to want to surpass everything he has ever done. And I have, once they put that star on me on the 29th of April 2020 and made me a brigadier general on my 60th birthday. I've always liked to do dangerous things. During high school summers, we would all go to the railroad trestle that when the lake was full would be a 110-foot drop to the lake. And in July, when the lake was down, it was almost a 140-foot drop. And we would jump from the trestle to the lake. Then climb back up those old wooden structures, get back to the top and do it again. Lay in the sun. Yes, I got married about 6 days before I entered the Marine Corps, and then came home after I completed basic training at Parris Island, South Carolina. And then I drew my first assignment in Niagara and was in country 17 days before crawling back to safety after we completed our mission. Misspoke, sorry. Niagara, not supposed to be Nigeria. I apologize. Poke Primal Gaming statement. Hey William, does Sebastian like comics? If he does, I have one I think he may like. I made it, so it is not published. It's called Gigi, and it is about a world where everyone is drawing. There is two superheroes. One is a stick werewolf dogman who is called Stick Dog, and the other is a stick man who is called Stick Man. If Sebastian wants to see it, I will email the photos of one of the comics with a lot of stick dogs to Jeff, and Jeff can email the photos to you if he wants to, and tell me what Sebastian thinks about it, please. We will give it to him and see if he likes it, okay? Bill. Daryl Ogle asks, you guys seem to take your time and clean up. It's like you guys operate on a shoestring. Would it be easier to hunt them down in helicopters or four-wheelers, since they could be wild ones that aren't tagged, or a pack of werewolves you can run into? Why only 2 men? Seems like a suicide mission every time. Well, Daryl, in the case of Brian, had identified that there were probably 3, maybe 4. Each agent should be good enough to get at least 3 and possibly 4 at most. So to make sure, we took 2 agents to this hunt, and was just counting on Ellis for killing 1 and me 3. Yes, we have to clean up. Suppose a person finds the bodies and brings a film crew in, and, oh man, what a headache I would have. And we have no idea that we are going to get hit by 11. We were still on track of the same 4 when all of the 11 busted out on us and did what they all did. Lost Soul asks, why didn't you split the shift at night? Did he know their hunting tactics, Bill, before he went into the field? Do you guys use drones or thermal and night vision on hunts? Or have your department ever used hawks to spot them out on hunts? How he views and feels about non-terrestrials, if they get along with them or afraid of them. I would love to talk about God with him also, and how he feels about a soul, or about playing chess, if he even plays. Why don't you use werewolves to help you hunt the ones that go off reservation? So do you have mock hunts using captured females and Sebastian? So the unit guys that come in can see how they hunt and would go after them. Or would they actually go into hunt mode and really hunt you? Answer: I couldn't count on Ellis staying awake even half a night, and not recognizing the silence worried me that much. Yes, he knew their movements, and knew, most likely, that they would come from the sides and rear, but that they could not come from the rear, so we knew they were going to come from the sides and front, but there were many more of them than we expected. We use night vision goggles to see at night. We have never used hawks on hunts, that I am aware of. He thinks that all non-terrestrials fear him, and that they should be afraid of him. Yes, he plays chess, and I would like to see that myself. As we're talking about God with him, I would let you in to talk with him about that subject at all, because you can't give them something distinctive enough to make sure you get the right one unless it's human. No mock hunts using real werewolves that are kept in captivity. It's all taught by video and by standing in front of the enclosures, and you still don't have to make it through that meet and greet session without passing out. Tonight's last part of the episode is from a subscriber who sent in a encounter a little ways back. This subscriber also is truly an amazing person. I have a lot of really awesome subscribers. You guys all rock, actually. Even the trolls, because you guys help my channel either way. This subscriber reached out to me and he sent me this custom-made, beautiful iPack D2 blade, custom handle, and custom sheath. This is his update to his next encounter. This next encounter happened some years later, my first run in the year 99. This experience was late in September, as myself, an experienced hunting friend and co-worker, we had been small game hunting that month for squirrel together, but had noticed a drastic reduction in not just their numbers, but also grouse and turkeys, though not in season this early in the year. We still would have crossed tracks with this wildlife way before and hadn't. That alone led us to question the environment and its going on around us. Big D, nickname for Daniel, was an especially vibrant, lively spirit in the outdoors, living every moment in the outdoors as its most and fullest, like me. Every trip only leading to no more than 2 squirrels harvested every other trip, and citing some days as 0, was building the question what, why, where, and if scenario. We had been troubleshooting our current dilemma after the 3rd trip. He'd been told and versed on my previous experience with what I learned later was a Dogman or equivalent, and thought he believed me. Still poked fun and called me, quote, Sasha, the European fable of the boy who cried wolf, unquote, ha ha. Every couple of outings, whether hunting or fishing, even while hiking. But beknownst to Big D on myself, this day was coming as my second as well. By this time, the 3rd week of season, we had discussed guessing a conclusion was drawn. It was a pack of coyotes in the local area, reason for the reduction of the small and big game in the area of Tazewell, where the farm was located. We had been planning on how and if we could do a trim the tide and onslaught of virtually raping nature's bounty, ripping it from the legal human hunters of fair chase, until we had taken enough and put a plan into motion to try as a well-trained unit to dispose of some of these critters. Though in the back of my mind worrying what if, and then just as quickly dismissing the thought like a belch and excused the notion. Those the day had come, it was just a few days until the first week of archery season opener, and we were gearing up by this time, gathering up 2 spotlights and night lenses, reddish not to scare or alert predators, also the vital scent killing spray and wildlife distress call. We had made the 45-minute trip from my house to meet him, and we finished the rest of the trip together. As soon as I pulled up, he threw his gear in the back, sat down, saying, "Are you ready, Sasha?" A quick reply, "Fuck you, asshole." We pulled out, getting to the farm around 7:09, leaving us about 20 minutes to get set up at the end of the woods as the open meadows come to an abrupt end. Getting all the equipment in place, loudspeakers set, and the system. All the guns loaded and sidearms strapped on. And I guess it was about 7:45. It was completely dark. So D hit the cordless remote, activating the squealing rabbit distress call with me turning on a rechargeable 500,000 candle power spotlight every 4 to 7 minutes. After an hour passed and no action except coyotes hollering about 3/4 of a mile, a couple farms away, was the only response. Then a raccoon came bounding out of the woods. just then, and I mean haulin' friggin' chicken. To our surprise, we looked at each other, and I spoke, saying, "What the hell?" And D replying back, "Damn, that coon's moving like it's being chased by a horny RuPaul." Laugh out loud. Once it cleared, we started talking about what made it move like that. And right then, maybe 10 minutes had passed, I heard that dreaded sound, like the otherworldly moan. Hearing it just one other previous time in my life a few years earlier, never ever hoping or thinking or wanting to hear that hellish sound again. Daniel, like me, froze, not moving a millisecond. As my small headlight provided just enough light to see him beside me, he not even blinking at that one moment. It was, by the sound, around 100 yards up on the ridgeline that led down the draw through the holler to the open pasture as we were set up at. We began scrambling, readying for whatever was coming, and coming it was. Even at that long-away distance, we could still hear it, like it was just a few yards away. Thanks to the windless clear night sky, he was asking me, "What the hell is it?" while checking his weapon, a trusted 444 stainless laminate lever action. And I replied, "Hey, I'm Sasha, asshole, remember?" Trying to provide a little bit of levity in this scary, sweating, heart-pounding moment in time. D snickered as he swung the lever shut on his gun, watching him grab and check his Glock 20 10mm. For those who don't know, that model Glock is the most powerful auto available in semi-auto form aside from the infamous iconic Desert Eagle, and rivals even in some of its magnum forms in shrill power and penetration. That after this night purchased that very model in the not-so-far future. I had already bolted my 260 Remington and felt for my Ruger 357 GP100 on my belt, sounding like a fast approaching, out of the control ATV smashing and uprooting whatever was in its path. All of a sudden we heard the border fence crack and stretch, knowing only one known creature could possibly scale barbed wire, was a black bear, or the thing I had run in once. The wire squeaked again, followed by a thump like something jumping and landing on both feet. By this time D was scared, white, like me. Then by now it was about 150 yards from us. I hit the light, together scanning the meadow. The light hit a set of eyes about 4 feet off the ground, but it was bouncing up and down. Then it went up another couple feet. We guessed. I quickly removed the red lens filter, giving us white light. "Oh my God," D said, along with my Holy Mary, Mother of God. I know, down deep, silently praying, not for the approaching being, not to be my nightmare incarnate. But, oh well, here it stood. Those eyes, those damn psychotic, soul-draining, glowing, beer-colored pupils. Throwing up his rifle, taking aim, and I watched his trigger finger tighten. I put my hand fast by ever so easily on his hammer, holding it, telling him don't, with D saying, "What, are you fucking crazy?" replying, "No, but don't shoot if there's no need." He slowly let the hammer down while sweat dripping from his forehead. Standing his gun on his leg, we stood watching it, noticing its wasp-shaped upper torso coming down and meeting two hawk-legged limbs like a dog, slim, but still defined, even at its distance, him holding the light. My turn on the binos. then handed off again. It ran another 70-plus yards, cutting to the left, its right, but still bearing toward us as he grabbed his gun suddenly, dropping the spotlight. As both our headlamps lit it up, both aiming our guns at it, I clicked my safety off. Suddenly, it looked up, dead at us, like drawing back. We heard the sound like a tire valve blowing off, loosening air. Then pause, and then Dan releasing a window-shattering howl that made our assholes draw up so tight they'd write Egyptian hieroglyphics. Then he fired at least feet, blowing a cloud of soil and cow biscuit, making its rump leap straight 3 feet into the air. When it hit back down, the legs moving like a scolded bobcat, faster than everything we've ever seen. As it ran, I fired over it about 4 feet over its head. It kicked into second gear and leaped the fence and gone. Still standing, we turned towards each other, and Big D letting out a deep breath, saying, "Well, now I not just believing you, but saw my now reckoning." Standing about 5 minutes past, as my heart quit pounding in my ears, said, "Well, since you dubbed me Sasha, who cried wolf, you are now the Hood." He said, "What in the hell does that mean?" I replied, "Little Red Riding Hood had a red cape and hood. Consider that name the Hood as your graduating wolf in the Hood experience that you have seen, saw, and lived to tell about it." Then he just got teary-eyed as I did, saying, "I'll never doubt you ever again," and asked, redacted, "How can I ever hunt again, day or night?" I told him as I put my hand on his left shoulder, "God's good time. One day soon, hunt by hunt." Picking up our courage, strewn on the ground, with our stuff leaving and calling system till daylight, we left slowly, load all the gear, and hauling southern redneck ass out of there. Scared but alive and blessed at the same time. Well, Jeff, that wraps. As they say, I got some others told to me by some other friends who have had these experiences in the past. If you want me to try to get them together, let me know. Have a blessed evening, you and Bill. Hope you guys are on the mend. God bless. Well, you know me, and yes, I do want them. Really quick. I was approached by an author the other day, and he asked me to narrate his cryptid encounter books. I'm going to be taking him up on the proposition. They'll be on Audible and Amazon. So that's something I've got to look forward to in the near future, and you guys get to look forward to it too. I want to thank everybody for all of the support that you guys have given me through these 3 years. It's been truly amazing. I'm still working on my own book. This gentleman who asked me to narrate his books, I'm going to ask him to help me get my book out for you guys as well. Also, very interesting thing that happened today. The encounter that happened back in the day in Germany, on an American military base, 2 kids were camping. That gentleman reached out to me today. I've discussed his encounter before, just by hearsay, and he reached out to me, and I'm in contact with him, so hopefully some cool stuff happens out of that. I know he wants to talk to William, But yeah, it was all in all a pretty good day. Today is now the 5 minutes till the 4th. So when this uploads, it will be the 4th New York State time. I'm going to get another story out tomorrow night, and then hopefully have some more recordings for you guys for the next couple of days while I'm in the hospital. Anyway, once again, thank you everybody for all of your support and generosity. I could never ever believe how great you guys truly are. Last night was an eye-opener for me after I uploaded. How many people responded to me, and how much love and friendliness and kindness was generated was amazing. So thank you so much, and may the Great Spirit watch over you and guide you onto your future. And with that, farewell.